Hey everybody, Tom Leyden with you. We are in the studios of APR PT, and I am with Dave Fleischman. If you've been watching our Instagram account throughout the football season, I'm sure you've had the chance to see Dave, get to know Dave a little bit. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Well, we haven't had the opportunity to do this, which is always kind of a get to know you. How did you start this business? What do you love about physical therapy kind of conversation? So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. I just want to get your thoughts on your background and what drew you into this field initially. Why did you want to go down this route?
Oh, wow. So most physical therapists, I would say. So I was a high school athlete, football player, wrestler, and I was injured. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I had compression fractures in my spine. I remember the orthopedic surgeon saying, "Hey, there's nothing we can do. You can go rest, and then you can do rehab." And of course, I asked him for a cortisone shot, and he almost threw me out of the office. But so I was an injured athlete, and I went to rehab, and I was like, "Wow, this is interesting." I never even knew this existed, and I had such a great outcome. Got back to play sports. I actually got to play the Thanksgiving Day game that year, my senior year. It was great.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Stoughton.
Okay, so did you go to Stoughton High?
I went to Stoughton High. Yeah, I was a Stoughton High graduate in 1989. But yeah, and then I went to West Virginia University, and then I went on to grad school at Nova Southeastern University in Florida.
So you were a mountaineer. You and I were in college at the same time, and I remember there were some heated Boston College, West Virginia battles during that era.
Yeah, we had Major Harris was our quarterback at the time. Who was your quarterback?
Well, now you're stretching a little bit into the late 80s. I did go to a Major Harris game, West Virginia against Penn State. I was actually at that game. We ultimately in the early 90s, we ended up having Glenn Foley, who was our quarterback, and the team was really good then. But it was West Virginia who Doug Flutie couldn't beat. If you think back to the 80s, that damn team with Jeff Hostetler and everybody else.
That's right, Hostetler was there, yeah. I was there, so my freshman year, we played Notre Dame in the national championship against, it was Major Harris against Tony Rice.
Oh, that's right.
We lost, yeah. That was our only loss of the year.
It was a damn good game, a Fiesta Bowl game.
Yep.
Two very good teams.
Yep.
I do recall that. Okay, so back to physical therapy. So you get out of college, and then what's the next step? What do you do?
So I always knew when I always knew that I wanted to be in business for myself. I didn't want to just go and work someplace. And I had friends that one of my friends went into the NFL, and at first I was like, "Oh, that would be great, go work in the NFL." But then I realized really quickly that that takes your entire life away. You can't really have a family. It's hard to really be, a family. You're basically part of the team and you're doing everything. So I realized very quickly that wasn't my thing. I always wanted to do outpatient orthopedic sports medicine. And so once I left school, I came back here. I worked in a clinic near my house, and then I took a job as a director in Rhode Island, and then my wife got pregnant, and I had to get back to Boston. So I came back up here and I interviewed with this company, and they were like, "Yeah, we want you to be a partner." I'm like, "Oh, wow." So then I ended up opening 3 clinics with that company, which I was a partner with, and then about 12 years into it, I realized they were going to sell to private equity, and that wasn't what my focus was at all. I always wanted to just do my own thing, so I branched off and opened my first clinic on my own, which was APR Westwood. We did that in end of 2017, beginning of 18, and then we opened Foxboro. Now it's coming up on our 2nd year.
But Foxboro is really a little bit closer to home now. I mean,
Yes.
You work with a lot of the folks from King Philip. You're
I
very
do.
tied into that school. Is that where your kids went?
My kids go to, I
Okay.
have one in King Philip still.
So, various reasons why you ended up in Westwood first and then came here second. But what have you learned about the Westwood market? Because obviously you make such a huge difference in people's lives.
I
and
love
you get
the
to
Westwood.
see them, perform. You're like, "Hey, I fixed that shoulder."
Yeah,
or
I love
fixed
it.
that knee.
I love Westwood. Westwood's it's great. Originally the reason why I ended up so when I was with my prior company, I was looking at Westwood when the Wegmans and all that came in. I was like, "Oh, Westwood's going to be my next spot," but I didn't want to do it with my prior company, so I waited until I left, and then I happened to find the spot in Westwood, which it just happened to. I was in the developer's office, and he was trying to put me in Dedham, and I saw the plans for Westwood. I'm like, "No, I want that." So I waited a year just to be there.
And it's grown. What I noticed about you, because I've known you now for about 2 years, is that it just keeps getting bigger. You just keep adding stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you add stuff, you add people, you add new technologies. Most recently, you added the laser and the shock treatment. What motivates you in that regard to keep
I'm always trying to, so as far as the space goes, I realized quickly once, Westwood is 2,400 square feet, and at times it just can get really busy in there. So you realize that, maybe you needed more space to grow. So this office here is 4,500 square feet. Obviously, Foxboro is a little cheaper rent than Westwood, which is nice. But as far as adding the new services, I'm always looking for new ways to help people get better quicker. And I've been looking at laser and shockwave for a few years. I didn't really want to do it because it's a cash-based service. Insurance doesn't cover it. But I felt like this was the right time. I was established enough now, and I got some seasoned clinicians. And once we started playing with the lasers ourselves, we fell in love with it. So.
And I think you're going to find, if you haven't already, that people are going to be okay with spending whatever it might be per treatment, 50, 60, 70. I don't know what the price point is that you settled.
So the average price for laser, we did some research, the average price for laser in Massachusetts is $80. That's the lowest price. The lowest price that we've seen for shockwave is $150. And I felt that if I could just do more of it and I could cover the cost of the equipment, then I'd be okay with that. So we actually, and I don't want to advertise this price because it's crazy, we do it for our current patients. If you're a patient of ours, we do a laser or shockwave add-on, and it's $30.
But fine.
Yeah, crazy.
We all run businesses,
giving it away.
But you get the people in the door.
Yeah.
And they get the experience, right? And they get to know the people. And now all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I haven't really done anything about this elbow issue I've been dealing with. So in a way, I think it's smart to drive traffic.
Yeah.
And am I crazy in thinking that way? I mean, I do stuff that way. I do these parties and spend thousands of dollars with the hopes that somebody walks in and says, hey, I want to be part of this family. And, you sign one deal, it pays for the party.
Well, that's the reason why we do the videos, right? Is if someone sees it and like, wow, I saw you on a podcast, all it takes is one. And I love doing it anyway, but the same thing, if I get someone in the clinic and they do a laser treatment and they're like, oh my God, that was fantastic. I feel so much better. And then they tell 10 people about it. It works. Same way I go do talks. I don't expect I'm going to get 10 new patients for a talk, but you'd be surprised. I'll do a talk and then a year later, someone's like, hey, I saw you talk at this place. I'm like, oh, great. So for me, it's funny. Yes, it's business, but I also love just getting out in the community. It gets me out of the clinic sometimes too, so it's nice.
I sat across from dear friend Derek Field. I don't know if you know Derek. He runs Field Martial Arts Academy. He's one of our sponsors. And he said something that I actually carry with me. I'll share it with you now. I share it with so many people. He goes, there's no one way to get 100 customers, but there's 100 ways to get one.
True.
And so what you just said is so true about just shotgun approach, get your face out there, get your voice out there, get your brand out there, have people become more aware of you because you just don't know what exactly is going to work. 50% of my advertising works. I just don't know what 50%.
True. Yeah. It's funny. Like when I was in business with my partnership, I didn't do a lot of this stuff because it wasn't even thought about. But when I went on my own, I was like trying to figure out different ways to get my face out there. And so I had to kind of go outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And the first time I did a talk, I was nervous. And then now I go and I do a talk, and it's like having a party. I just love doing it,
At the end of our last video talking about injuries, you mentioned that you like to summarize what you do here as a concierge service. So I want to tee you up again to explain to people who are listening what that means. What is a concierge service?
So, when you go to your hotel and your nice hotel, and you're like, oh, I need a place to eat, so you go to the concierge. And the concierge basically helps you through everything. They make reservations for you. They call hotels. They give you advice. So we consider ourselves a concierge practice in the way that we don't want our patients to do anything, because healthcare is a complete disaster, as we all know. There's copays, deductibles, there's referrals, there's scripts, there's so many unknowns, and most people have no idea what their benefit is. So we try to just take all that pressure off them and say, hey, call us, give us your information, we'll take care of all of it for you. And we don't necessarily, we don't have to do it because it's ultimately the patient's responsibility to know their own benefits. but we do it because we want to do it, because it makes their lives easier, and it just takes another burden off of them. So if for us, concierge just means, come to us. When the minute you call us, we'll take it over. We want to be your primary care physician for musculoskeletal pain. If it hurts when you do this, call us, is kind of our motto, So rather than going to an urgent care because you hurt your knee, or going to your primary care physician because you hurt your knee, no disrespect to them, they don't know anything about orthopedics. I have friends that are primary care physicians, and they tell me all the time, I don't really know what to do. I'm an internist. So we are the primary care physicians of musculoskeletal pain. We refer, usually what happens is someone comes to us, I'll then refer them to an ortho, and as you know, I get you in right away because I'm pretty well connected with orthos because I treat all their patients after their surgeries. So,
well, it's been fun doing the football videos.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your support of everything we do with Westwood Living, and it's widespread, whether it be videos or podcasts or social media or events or your expert contributions. And, Dave is our expert contributor in physical therapy, so keep your eyes peeled for some columns over the next couple of months. But really just a thanks for supporting, because without your support and the support of so many other businesses, we couldn't do what we do. And I'm glad that you see some value in what we do. And it's been fun to talk injury, so we'll figure out what to do here over the spring.
Sounds good.
All right, that is Dave Fleischman. You can learn more about Dave and his team. Go to aprpt.com. That is Accelerated Performance Rehabilitation Physical Therapy, located in Foxboro and Westwood. And as always, if there's somebody else you want me to have a conversation with, just reach out. Send an email to Leyden@bestversionmedia.com. I'll find that person, have a conversation, and then share it with you right here along the Westwood Living Podcast Network. But for now, for Dave from the studio in Foxboro, I'm Tom Leyden saying so long, and thanks so much for listening.